So you go in there at 7th grade, and then what is that experience like going from the trailer park to a foster care?
Dude, it was rough. Like, I experienced my first anxiety attack, right? It felt like somebody stabbed me in the chest, and I was skinny. Like, I'm, a little bigger now because my 15-year-old daughter's making cookies, but that's besides the point, right? But no, I was skinny. I didn't eat very well. It was like cereal and stuff. So when I went into foster care, it was an emergency foster home, and I think it was in Fishkill. And I had no idea because I was never out of Dover. Like, Dover was my life. Like, I didn't know anything outside of Dover. Yep. And so when I went into Fishkill, I had no idea where I was, right? Going through my head, like, in the Social Security car, I remember, like, I'm about to bounce because I know the woods like the back of my hand. And I'm like, I'm going to go somewhere. But no, dude, it was like a ghost town. I was like, no, none of my friends were there. It was really weird. And I just remember being in my head like, I'm scared to death. Like, where am I going? My mom was fighting the police on the front porch. And I was like, I had to be the parent. I was always the parent because my mom had the mental illness, right? So she's fighting the cops. I'm like, Mom, I had to calm her down so she didn't go to jail, right? And so they're like, get, a week's worth of underwear and socks, and then you're coming with us. And I'm like,
what was it that
real.
sparked you having to go into?
So she kept me out of school. I was on PINS, Parents in Need of Something. Principal came actually on a short bus to come get me to go to school. Punched him in the face. Ran, I hid, and I was always kind of in trouble and stuff like that. And so they were like, you got to go into foster care. I wasn't eating well. So my best friend, Eric Sloss, lived right in the trailer next to me. So, and they're actually my foster parents now, but I would always go over there and I would, eat or whatever it was. They would always help us out, me and my mom.
Supplement what you needed.
Exactly, yeah. And so they were always there for us. And I just remember going to that first foster home, and it was like, dude, like somebody stabbed me in the chest. I didn't know what was going on. And she thought that I didn't want to eat the food, so I got punished. And I was like,
at the new foster home. So walk us through that a little bit. One day they just say, hey, we found new parents for you. And they drop you off at someone's door.
Yup.
And you're like, oh, hi, Mom.
Yeah, I wasn't about to call her Mom,
right,
but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you.
But it's like, what the heck? So I got to eat dinner with this new family.
What age were you at that point?
So I was 7th grade, so I don't even...
Oh, you are a rebel. 7th grade, you're 13, 14.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was like 13, I think 13,
okay.
right?
And you look like you were probably a big kid back then, tall.
I was tall. I just hit puberty, right?
Yeah.
So I jumped up, right, in height. My voice got a little deeper because it was funny. We used to be like, hey guys, want to go play Tonkas in the dirt? Like, my voice was like that, But when I went to that home, it was like, it was a shock. I had to fit in. Like, they had an older son. He was listening to, DMX and all that stuff. So I kind of fit in a little bit with him. Like, he had the subwoofer, and that was all becoming popular. So I was like, all right, kind of connect with him. But that only lasted maybe a couple months, and then I went into a actual foster home. So I would have to meet my mom in Poughkeepsie in a room with glass all the way around it. And it was like, I had to watch what I said, you know what I mean? Like, it was like, what the heck? Are you going to see your mom this month? Once a month I would see my mom, and I would check in on her. So when I went into this other foster home, this is insane, but you're about to hear this. So when I went in, they were like, hey, we found a new family for you. I'm like, great, because this is an emergency one, right? They just kind of, roll the kids through. And so they're like, hey, we found somebody. I'm like, all right, it is what it is. What do you want me to do? And like, well, you're going in with this new family. They never had a teenager before. And I'm like, okay, well, now I knew why, because they wanted them to do their dishes, clean their floors, do their laundry, dig the posts every day after school to make a freaking chicken fence. I did that.
So you were like an indentured slave?
That's what it felt like. So
that is wild.
Yeah, and I had to dress in preppy clothes going in at that age. I got picked on, I got beat up, I was in fights
and you don't
every
have
school.
any type of person to go to to tell them that, right? Hey, I'm in this house and they're using me for free labor.
So listen to this. So I go in and they give you a counselor and all this stuff. And I'm not saying foster homes are bad, because there are very good foster homes out there. And, and that's great, but there are ones that I feel like take advantage and they want that monthly money. And so I'm going in, right, and I meet with my mom, and this is where Kevin, actually, in the New York branch, saved my life, dude, because at this point I was like, nothing's going for me, the world's against me, I barely see my mom. And so I went in, and I was out working on the fence one day, and I got into some briars, and I had no idea. Remember, growing up in the trailer park, that's all I knew. Now I'm out playing in the woods, I get some briars, I get this weird rash. Well, I wake up my foster mom from a nap, and she flips, dude. Why'd you wake me up from my nap? you're punished. So I got punished for letting her, like, I had no idea what was going on. So I tell my mom that in the next meeting in the room. Guess what? Social services tells the parents, punished again. And then, not to mention, the dad was a big, like, kind of looked like a biker dude, big beard, on steroids because of his shoulder, and he was like taxing people at this time. And so I changed the channel one time on the remote, and he hit me over the remote. I couldn't use my 2 fingers. Told my mom what was going on, punished again. So then
who's punishing you? The
parents,
again.
the foster
because
parents.
he's reporting to his mother.
But the mother's not going anywhere, doing anything with that information. It's just getting misconstrued, and you're getting screwed again.
Yep. Yeah. So they would report it to the parents, then I would get in trouble, you know, that kind of stuff. So then I'm there, like, literally digging holes after school. I mean, there's a lot more in there. Yep. But I remember, like, Kevin, he sent a letter, and it had $5 in it. Like, we're young, right? He had $5, and he's like, dude, whatever you're going through, you know what I mean? Because, like, I'm having suicidal thoughts, you know?
Yeah,
and this isn't the first time.
At that point.
But I'm, like, trapped. I can't do anything. I'm getting beat up at school. I'm going to different schools, and every school, guess what? You got to fight somebody to be, you know what I mean, to kind of fit in. So, I mean, I went through multiple schools through foster care. So that was just it. And then my uncle ended up, I was telling my mom what was going on. So my mom was telling my uncle, but my uncles were alcoholics. I'm pretty sure they had a little mental illness now. They're not here anymore. They passed away from cirrhosis of the liver. We talked about earlier why I don't drink.
Yeah.
I used to drink a lot.
Yeah.
So did my uncles, but they died from cirrhosis. I found my Uncle Rick in the trailer. I was riding dirt bikes with Kevin up in the park, and the cops were outside. Sparky's out, my dog had a Rottweiler pit bull, and I'm coming down the road, and the cops are outside. They're like, nobody's answering the door. The dog's out. Like, so I had to go in through the window, and sure enough, I went around the counter. He was going towards the bathroom. There's blood on the fridge. He's dead.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, died from cirrhosis of the liver.
You have seen a lot of hardship as a
Crazy
young
story.
person.
How long were you in that foster home? So you 13, 14, you move into the first one, and then how many foster homes and how long until you're out?
Yeah, so I went from that, so the emergency to the full-time foster home, and I don't remember, to be honest, I don't know the times exactly. I try to actually remember, like, not remember that stuff, you know,
Block it
because
out.
I think it was like a self thing, like I make people laugh. I think that's like a coping mechanism, if
For
you will,
sure.
right? So I don't remember exactly the dates. I do remember moving in 8th grade with my Uncle Rick, and then we were renting in a small apartment. I was living on a pull-out couch, and he adopted me, but he was like hiding the alcohol, and we would go to the American Legion, post 1575 in Katona. I was going to Somers at this time. And we talked about it, my IQ, right? So Dover said I had a 68 IQ. Like, they would test me and all this stuff, and I was in special ed and all this stuff, and they just kept passing me. And they never, like, to this day, dude, I'm not good at reading, right? So I got to do Audible. I'm reading books, and, like, I'm self-educating now because I know, you could be better, right? As long as you do whatever you put your mind to. That's what my mom always told me growing up. You can do whatever you want in life if you put your mind to it, period. And so I live by that now, you know what I mean? It's like, if I want to do it, I'm going to do it. Hell or high water, let's go. Yeah. And so when I was in foster care with my Uncle Rick, we got into a big fight actually before we passed away, and I was driving now at age of 17. I was driving from Dover because we moved back in with my mom because the landlord had passed away, and we couldn't rent that apartment anymore. So now I had to go back. I'm not supposed to be living with my mom. I'm driving an hour and a half down to Somers. I was working at grocery store there to make money. I had my first car at that time, and you're not supposed to drive on highways and all. I'm driving down those roads and stuff. And so a counselor found out when I was at Somers, and they were talking about putting me back in foster care. I was like, hell no, like no way. So I told my Uncle Rick when I found out what was going on. I knew they would just show up, right? So I told my Uncle Rick, I said, look, I'm not going back to foster care. I'm moving in with my best friend, Eric, and I called Eric crying. I was like, dude, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm not going back to foster care. Like, I will die before I go back to foster care. Yeah. And so he's like, dude, talk to my mom. So I talked to Jody, and she's like, just come over here. We'll figure it out. Just come over here. And so I told my uncle, I walked in the trailer. I said, I'm leaving. He's like, hell no. He's like, 3 effing years. 3 years. I said, I don't care. I'm not going back to foster care. He chases me out of the house, out of the trailer. And I get in my car, and I start my car. He whips open the door, and I punch him in the stomach. And I throw it in drive. I run over his legs. I see him in the road. I'm like, I'm going to jail. I just ran over my family. I'm a piece of shit at this point. Like,
big guilt trip.
big guilt trip, right? So now I'm driving out of the park, dude, doing like 90, 100 miles an hour. It starts pouring down, raining. And this is a God thing because I get into Hyde Park and I'm coming down Crum Elbow, and you know where the camp is right there?
Yep.
So I come around, and I'll never forget it, dude. I'm in a Chevy Cavalier. I'm like 1, 2, and drive. 2 would get up to 100. Drive, I'm hitting 120. I'm going around the corner at like 90. And I come around the corner, and the car just starts kicking out. It says slippery when wet on the side of the road. And I
Figure that out.
Yeah. And I see these headlights. So I'm sideways like this, driver's side, and I look, and I just see the fear in this lady's eyes that I'm coming at her like this. And I don't know, I close my eyes, I pinned it to the floor, and I like come like this, sideways again, and I'm sliding. You know the rock wall and the trees line around there?
Yeah.
Dude, I hit the bark, and I slide sideways, and the car goes all the way to here and stops. And the lady's like, she stopped. She's like, are you okay? And I roll down the window, and I say, yeah, and I'm bawling, dude. I pin it again, because I'm like literally right around the corner. At this point, I like get in, I throw in the park, the car's like, shaking, I get out, I collapse on their stairs. And I'm just bawling, like I just ran over my uncle. I'm like, I'm going to jail. I feel I'm such a freaking, dude, like, I didn't care if I died
Sounds
at
like
that
this
point.
was rock bottom.
Dude, it was. Rock bottom.
Mental warfare, dude. Mental
That
warfare.
was a ride, bro. I'm sweating
Yeah.
right now just listening to that. So that was your
It
breaking point, and then you found stability in a new home, I
So,
assume.
yep, I started going to church. I went to Hyde Park Baptist Church. I met my now wife. She was the hot choir girl. So I followed her down to Bob Jones. That's what actually got me to South Carolina, because I was like, dude, we can't afford, to live in New York. Starting, I mean, it's expensive here, right?
Yeah,
so I was
of course.
like, what am I gonna do? Like, I have no education. What am I gonna do? So I already had a job because when I went to Bob Jones University, when I followed her down, we went for 1 year. I almost got kicked out. So if you know anything about Bob Jones, they have demerits. So if your hair touches your ear, you get a demerit. 150 demerits, you get kicked out.
Oh my goodness.
And I never had structure, right? My mom was like, do whatever you want. Like, I did whatever I want. I got in trouble, whatever, right?
Yep.
And so when I went to Bob Jones, it was good for me because
Yeah,
I had
you
structure, right?
You needed structure.
And I needed it.
Yeah.
But I didn't really, obey it too well. But we came back, I think, and I had a CD in my bag. So if you have like a game rated over a certain amount, M for mature or something, you get demerits. I got 300 demerits. So I got into a fight there. I got 300 demerits, 150, you get kicked out. They gave me 140 for the whole last semester. And I was like, all right, I got to do it, right? I got to hang in. So I hung in for a year and ended up coming back. And me and Sheila ended up dating for like literally 2 months. And then we got married. I proposed to her right at Vanderbilt.
Wow.
On the water. And so I was like, look, I got a job lined up from a town student in Greenville, South Carolina. He said, come down. I knew how to drive the skid steer, so we did grading for new construction. It was booming in Greenville. I was like, all right. So I did that until 2000, like the beginning of 2006 in there. And then the painter was prepping the houses to wash them, right, for getting them for show. I asked Al McLaren, I was like, hey man, what are you paying the painter? Because I was making $500 a week. And I was like, what are you paying
What year
him?
is this around?
This is 2006.
2006. okay.
Yeah, so the beginning of 2006. And so they, obviously the economy, housing started going down that 2008, but it was really started in 2006. So they ended up going out of business, and I was prepping the houses. So I bought a pressure washer. I was putting it in and out of it. I was doing auto detailing, whatever it was. And then they docked my pay $1 because something happened with it. I think his son didn't do something. He didn't show up on time. He's like, where are you? I was like, I'm waiting for Alvy. He didn't show up, so I got docked an hour. So I'm like, this is dumb. I'm out. Like, I'm just gonna go do my own thing. And so I always wanted to do my own thing down there. So I did mobile auto detailing and then pressure washing. And I did that, blood, sweat, and tears, man.
You
Door
started on
knocking.
your own. You were doing it on your own.
Completely on my own.
You were door knocking to start the business?
You know it.
That's what I
You
like to
know
hear.
it.
And where did you
good
figure
shit.
that tactic out? Sort of by yourself?
Just old school, yeah. Just going door, because when we did it down in Dover with my mom, I used to, we did a little things in the trailer park, like we did lawn care and stuff like that, mowing the lawns, and I got Kevin into it, so we were mowing lawns there. So it was just, what I knew down in the roots,
you
right?
just knew to naturally acquire your leads by going out and finding them.
Going out and finding
Well,
them.
it seems
Yep.
like the best thing foster care taught you was independence and just being able to mentally get through things no matter how hard they were.